Welcome inside the Saturday Morning Huddle. Billy Beebe, Kenny Rhoda with you live on this Saturday morning to answer the question, what happened on Friday night in Stark County football? We're going to do it over this next hour and 25 minutes, just about. We are loaded with guests today, folks. We've got a ton of great guests, coaches, players, doctors coming on to talk with us about high school football, everything that happened last night and everything we've got going. Two huge games that we covered. Three great games overall, though, for our radio stream and TV team. I welcome in Kenny Rhoda now. Kenny, Poochie Colucci, that was the talk of the town. Everyone getting excited for that one, and it did not disappoint.
It lived up to the hype, Billy Beebe. It really did. When we were planning this game way back when we looked at the schedule, we're like, Canton South, Fairless, we got to be in the Falcons' nest for that one, right? So we get out to Fairless, and it was everything and then some. The two quarterbacks did not disappoint. Poochie Snyder earlier this year had set the passing yardage record already for Canton South, and he's only a junior. And we'll get into this a little bit later. His performance last night earned him the WHBC Player of the Week honors, and we'll tell you why and how and all that good stuff. But Carson Colucci, almost as good as Poochie. His team led for most of the night. In fact, the only time that Canton South led last night was the final score, 39-38, and it came down to the final 2 minutes of the game, and Canton South comes back to win at Fairless. A huge, huge win for that program, and Matt Dennison, he will join us a little bit later on to talk about it. We're going to hear from Poochie Snyder as well. They just went back and forth like heavyweight boxers, throwing rights and lefts and jabs and uppercuts and everything, man. And it was so much fun to do the game. And that's why I love being down on the sidelines. You play-by-play guys, you love being up in the booth calling the action. I like being down on the sidelines, right there in the action, hearing what's going on the field, on the sidelines, seeing the players and coaches react and everything. And these two put on a performance. It was a shame somebody had to lose. That old cliche, boy, I hate to see anybody lose. You have a winner, you have a loser. But both teams played their asses off last night, and it was a fantastic game.
Yeah, that was one of those games where I'm tracking the score. I'm looking at the score. Man, keeps adding up. Fairless, of course, in the lead the whole time. And then my game finishes, which I'll get to in a second. I look 39-38, Canton South, the big winner there. You want to break down the plays, Kenny, or you want to go to my game? What do you think?
Go to your game. Let's go to your game. And then because we've got a guest coming up too, so I want to get both of our games in to start this thing. And then we've got highlights and all kind of good stuff from our game.
All right, so McKinley visiting Lake homecoming at Lake High School. Certainly a lot of hype at 6-0. The key that we're talking about, we're looking at the two quarterback system. It's going to have to take a break. Cale Jarvis injured last night, so he did not play. It's all on Will Butler, the senior transfer from Mogador. Wow, Lake gets out to a 14-0 lead, Kenny. They return a kick for a touchdown right away, which was amazing to watch. And then Dan DeGeorge, he must have been really feeling like he had to go bold off that kickoff return for a touchdown, onside kick. They don't collect it, but, I mean, you really got the vibe that Lake wanted to come out punching. Right. 3 and out for McKinley. Lake's up 14-0. Five unanswered scores from McKinley to eventually hold a 23-14 lead. It was McKinley's game after that, and the biggest dagger, Kenny, into the second half, the opening drive for the Bulldogs. They go 10.5 minutes. They go 85 yards. Take 10 minutes off the clock. So a huge, huge win for McKinley to knock off an undefeated Lake team, and certainly a great one on our stream game.
Yeah, so we're going to break down these games even more a little bit later, but there were great games all throughout Stark County. And while a lot of eyes were on our Pac-7 game last night between Fairless and Canton South, a lot of eyes on another Pac-7 game last night. And joining us right now is the head coach for the Northwest Indians, who were a victor last night in overtime, 29-28. John DeMarco joining us today. Coach, congratulations on the big win last night. Did it look just as good on film this morning?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having us, Kenny. We appreciate that. But, yeah, it actually looks better today. When you come out on top of a game like that, it leaves you feeling pretty good.
Coach, this was being talked about on the sidelines at my game last night, right? We're doing Fairless and Canton South, and everybody's wondering, boy, can Northwest knock off CVCA and create a logjam atop, the Pac-7? And you guys were able to do that. How were you able to do that last night?
Well, we just made some plays down at the end that were very crucial. It sounds to me like there are a lot of great games in Stark County last night, and isn't this just a great place for high school football? And I think last night illustrated that more than anything else. We just got down to the end, and we had some guys step up, make some plays for us, which was crucial. We thought in the games that we lost earlier in the year that the other team made some plays and we didn't make some plays. And last night we were able to make some plays that counted.
Coach, I want to take you back a couple of weeks. You guys start 2-0, then you lose 2 in a row. What was the message sitting at 2-2 that now has you guys winning 3 in a row?
Well, we just thought, it's the same thing we do every week. We want to get better each week. We want to get better each day that we show up, and we want to improve each week. And, we want to take one game at a time. We know it's a long season. We knew when we played Fairless and we lost by, 3 in a very hard-fought game that we thought this conference was going to be very competitive this year, and we just needed to keep improving and hopefully down the road that we'd have the opportunity to play for something. And right now it looks like we may have that opportunity.
Coach, from year to year, you send messages out. The players hear you, but sometimes they don't get it, right? So when it was 2-2 and you were sending that message out, did you feel confident in your team that it resonated and things would turn around?
Yes, we did, because we felt like in the 2 games we lost that we did not play bad. We thought we played hard. We thought we actually played well. And as we told the team, we just didn't play well enough, that we had to get better. We just had to continue to believe in each other and get over the hump there. And hopefully we have.
Coach, we got to talk to Isaac a couple of weeks ago, Isaac LaFay, and he was in the weight room with the rest of the guys. That was a fun interview. Seems like a tight-knit group you have. How big of a deal is that for, like you said, a long season?
Well, it is. It's important for a long season. It's also very important when you're down 14-0 and, the guys are searching a little bit to have confidence in each other. It's one thing to have confidence in yourself and what you're able to do, but you also have to have confidence in the guy next to you. And I think football is such a great sport to illustrate that, where you have to have confidence in all 11 guys out on the field.
All right, Coach. I think maybe week 2, whatever it was, when we talked with you, you were, I don't know if you threw a jab at a reporter out there about your quarterback or whatever.
No, I wouldn't do that, Kenny. You must not have taken it well. I don't do that.
No, you don't do that, right? So,
no.
But Chase Badger, take me through his season, why you believed in him then, and what he did last night to help you win this game, and we'll get to the 2-point conversion here in a second.
Well, he's a sophomore, and he's still getting better all the time. He still has room for improvement. He made some plays last night that were good. He had made some plays that we got to improve on. But down the stretch when we needed some plays, he really came through for us. He ad-libbed one of our touchdowns late in the game, and then he was able to hit Ethan on a touchdown where it was perfectly timed, and then he just dropped the ball into the corner for a extra point play. Just 2 beautiful passes. So he's improving each week. He's got some poise in the pocket. He does a nice job of just leading us in general.
Let me follow up on that, Billy, with Coach on the 2-point conversion, because in our game last night, Fairless led the entire game, right? Canton South, Poochie Snyder scrambles 40-some yards for a touchdown. There was no doubt in their mind, they told us afterwards, they were going for 2 there and the win. What about you last night? When you come back and it's 28-21, you're down in overtime, it's 28-27, you score. Was there any doubt in your mind you were going for 2?
No. No, but it actually came for the other end. When we selected to play overtime, they lost a couple of players during the game, and we thought we had a little advantage going into overtime. Well, their outstanding player, Kyle Snyder, came in with a sprained ankle and just played defense against us. He didn't run the ball. They have another back, and I can't remember his name, but he's just a freshman back, and he's going to be he's really good right now. He's a good ball player. But he got hurt late in the game, and when we hit overtime, they brought Kyle Snyder back in on offense. And his first carry, he went 20 yards in overtime. And our defensive coach has said, you might want to think about a 2-point play, keep him off the field. So we knew when we got the ball back that we were going to go for 2. We're going to keep it in our hands. We're going to have a chance to win or lose.
That 2-point play, was it something that you knew before the game, if it came down to that, that's the one you were going to, that you practiced all week, or was it a spur of the moment based on what you saw?
Spur of the moment. Ethan Nicky is a really good route runner and probably as good of an athlete as we had. On the touchdown, he ran a little post pattern. So on the extra point, we just did the opposite. We ran a little corner route with him. And Chase just laid in both balls, and Ethan made a nice move and made 2 good catches on it.
How big of a win is this for you, Coach? What can this do for the rest of the season?
It's huge because we're entering week 8 and we still have something to play for. Other than just, an opportunity for the playoffs, we're going to have an opportunity to play for our conference. And our conference is very competitive this year. In the 2 games that you covered, very competitive, and we feel fortunate to still have an opportunity to play for that. So it's important. It gets you going, on Monday, Tuesday through the week when you're dragging a little bit and, you're a little bit beat up from Friday night like we just played. And so it's good to have those opportunities.
Coach,
Billy, anything else? Go ahead.
Yeah, one last thing, Coach. You talked a little bit about Stark County, and one trend we're seeing this year, both comeback wins and first half scores don't really determine, the end of games. How big is that? And for a team, I think we've seen it from a lot of teams this year. If it's 14-0 at halftime or early in the game, that's not it.
No, you got to just, we try to stress that all the time to our kids. It's 48 minutes. You can't get hung up on what happens the first half. Obviously, it's going to make a difference in what happens in the game, but you got to keep the faith, keep plugging away, and you're going to get somewhere between 8 to 12 possessions in the game. You just got to take advantage of those. So if you're behind, you just got to take advantage of your possessions, and I hope you capitalize on those, and just kind of chip away until you get back into it.
Hey, Coach, last thing. How about this? You're first place in the Pac-7 right now. It's a log jam at the top, so you're tied for first place there, and you still lead in the Press Box Food Challenge too. So you're first place in 2 different categories. How about that?
Well, I heard about the press booth just this week. They said we're still number 1. And I said, well, that's always great to hear. You like to be number 1, and we got a chance to be number 1 from the beginning to the end, from gate to gate there. So that's quite an honor.
Well, you're doing it on the field as well. Congratulations on the big win last night. Best of luck the rest of this season, and thanks for joining us in the huddle this morning, Coach.
Thanks, Kenny. We really, really appreciate you having us on.
John DeMarco and his team doing a fabulous job, Billy Beebe. A great win for them. I'm telling you, we're doing the Fairless Canton game, and I got people coming up on the sidelines like, hey, what's that CVCA Northwest score? You have any updates on that? Because everybody knew that whoever won Fairless and Canton South, if CVCA would get knocked off, they would be tied then with Northwest CVCA for the top of the Pac-7. So it was a big, big night last night in the Pac-7, but also a big night with some upset victories, Billy, and bring in our next guest because they pulled off one last night.
Coach Troy Davis joins us now from Louisville. Coach, a big win last night. How are we feeling waking up early this morning?
Still tired and don't have much of a voice left.
I love he's got Leopard Nation representing behind him there.
That's
Always
right.
great to see that, Coach. Mindset going in against a green team, Coach, that throws the ball all over the field, right? They got playmakers left and right. Clockner can wing it with the best of them. So what was the mindset, the game plan going in, and did you have to adjust in game because of what was happening or no?
Yeah, defensively, we wanted to go in and we went with a 3 front last night. and we wanted to be able to drop 8 at times. We wanted to confuse the quarterback and try to give him some difficult things to look at. And we were able to do that defensively. And we knew we had to tackle well. They're going to put guys in space, and our tackling was exceptional last night. And offensively, we wanted to do what we do. We wanted to grind it out on the ground, take our opportunities in the air when they presented themselves. And so we were able to do that. We capitalized. Luck went our way a few times too, and we were able to capitalize when it counted.
Coach, Kenny mentioned defense. Let's shoot to offense real quick. You guys trailed, I believe, 23-7 was the largest lead they had over you. For a team that likes to run the ball, pushes the run, does a lot with the run, when you're down 3 scores like that, how is it that you still use the run but come back?
Well, like in a game like last night, we have been through the grind with a lot of teams, and we've learned a lot of things about ourselves. And one of the things that we talked about at halftime was staying committed to what we do. You can't score, 21 points on one drive. You just have to successfully execute one drive at a time. And when we get out of character is when we get into trouble. So we wanted to stay in character last night, take what we could get, stay in the game to the fourth quarter, and have a chance to, to take it over in the fourth. And that's what happened for us.
Boy, did you ever, Coach. You come all the way back. You win it 27-23. Wrote down some notes here, and I want to ask you about Charlie Roberts, your quarterback. A couple of TD runs and a TD pass. How has he developed throughout this season?
Charlie's a great leader. He's a team leader for us. And, like last night was a learning thing for him. With the triple option and you're running the veer, the midline, and speed option, there's all kinds of reads. And like I was telling you guys before, last night somebody treated us differently than they treated us before. And,
right.
And so, Charlie's learning. Sometimes at quarterback, you're building the plane as you're flying it in the triple option, especially in his first year. Charlie's really adapted to that. Last night we were able to put him in situations to throw the ball at times that still gave us the run fits that, we needed people to drop down for the run and open up windows for throwing. And so he was able to do that. He had a great night last night.
Coach, in a game like that, when you score 20 unanswered, do you know it in the moment, or are you just locked in on drive by drive?
I'll tell you, we come out and we open up with a fumble that, we didn't think was a fumble, but whatever. It's what the rules are made, and they make the call, and it's that. And we knew we could push the ball. And that drive that we had where Jacob Davide and Will Ramsey just battling through the line, making big chunks. As a defense coordinator, I'm thinking, man, former defense coordinator, I'm thinking, this is not what you want to happen to you. We can take this. We can take this game because we're physically taking over. And so that was, for me, I was thinking, yeah, we're starting to tilt the field. We're starting to put things our way. And we just wanted to keep them on the ropes. And fortunately, we were able to do that.
What is it with the Davides and running the football in Stark County, huh? Right?
Yes, they know how to play football. We're glad we got this one.
Right. Backyard, football when they're growing up, Jason, and Jacob, right? Jacob, 112 yards. He had a touchdown last night. I look at, Jason, 156 and 4 touchdowns. Jacob, 112 and a touchdown. So we were joking about it a little bit last night. The Turkey Bowl on Thanksgiving. That must be a great backyard football game, right?
I would bet it's intense. I know I can speak for our Davide, and he's a 100% football player. He could play in any generation. That's the kind of football player he is. He's with me here today as my guest here with us. But, we are glad he's on our football team.
Well, bring him in because we want to ask him what that backyard football game is like in the Davide family. So congratulations, first of all, on the win, 100 yards. You scored a touchdown last night. So what was it like growing up in the Davide family, going head-to-head? Did we have Oklahoma drills and see who was the best in the family? Take us through that.
Yeah, something like that. Everybody in my family's athletes, super competitive. And Jason's family is all D1 athletes. His siblings played D1. His brother's a semi-pro lacrosse player. And my family all played lacrosse. And my sister also played basketball. So growing up, it was always the rivalry. My family versus his family. Backyard going full go as hard as we can. Spearing somebody into the ground, standing over top of them, making fun of them. It was crazy.
What's it like playing two sides of the ball? We talk to guys all the time about it, but you've been a big playmaker on both sides, and definitely the contact is there.
I mean, at first, obviously, it was a little difficult. Not used to playing both sides of the ball. I'm not used to playing running back in general, really. It's my first year playing running back. But I kind of like it, being able to be a leader on both sides of the ball instead of just defense, and being able to impact the offense as well is very, very nice.
All right, as a player, what's it like when you're down as much as you were last night, and the coaches are telling you it's not over, but sometimes that doesn't resonate, and you could easily check out. So take us through that part of the game last night that enabled you guys to come back and get the win.
I mean, just like Coach was saying, how we got to stick to our game plan, and especially the other captains, especially Charlie Roberts, every huddle in between timeouts, every play, just making sure everybody's keeping their head up and keeping the motivation.
Defensively, you guys kind of had to tighten up towards the end of the game, obviously. Did you feel like when it hit 23-7, okay, we really can't give up any more points?
Yeah, it was. I mean, they kept hitting the bubbles. That's the entire first half. The only play that was really beating us was bubbles. So going into halftime, we knew if we shut down the bubble, we'd pretty much win the game because our defense was playing phenomenal other than the bubble. So we made some adjustments at halftime and completely shut down what they wanted to do.
So take us through. I mean, you guys are down 23-7. Like you said, you get the chance at halftime, but in game, what's going on in the huddle? Is it a couple guys talking? Is it just you? Is it, your Mike linebackers? Who's communicating what you want to do?
Mostly me and Will Ramsey, the other linebacker. We see ourselves as a leader of the defense. So we know that if we can get everybody motivated and keep everybody high intensity, that everybody else will follow us because they look to us as their leaders.
All right, so you're playing running back, but you also play defense. What do you get more enjoyment out of? Scoring a touchdown or dropping a quarterback for a sack, a tackle for loss, or making a big defensive play?
I don't know. That's tough. I'd probably say a touchdown. I was an ex-lineman, so I'm kind of living out the lineman dream of scoring a touchdown. But I still love, obviously, making a big play on defense. There's nothing like it. The intensity on defense, I feel like it's just crazy. But being an ex-lineman, I feel like scoring a touchdown has to be nicer to me than a big play on defense.
Want to go back to Coach real quick. Not sure if you both squeeze in here, but
squeeze in together. Huddle up there, guys. This is the Saturday morning huddle, right? So huddle up, guys. Go ahead, Billy.
There we go.
So take us through the decision to make and give time to Jacob at running back. Is that something you did in camp, something you thought of last year? And then how did you guys work that out?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dov, we call him Dov around here. So he came in as a center, as a sophomore, started center for us, totally transformed himself, spends tons of time in the weight room. And so it was easy to see there. If I get back in the camera, it was easy to see, like he was putting in the work that he was going to be able to run the ball. And going into this year, going to triple option, we knew we had to have dive backs that could just pound the inside. And right off the bat, man, he gets the ball, he breaks a 7-8 yard run. The numbers were behind him. He could push the field and get yardage for us. And last night it was Essick, Davide, Ramsey, just boom, boom, boom. And like I said, from the defensive side, I would not want to see those three dudes pushing on me all night long.
Coach and Jacob, what did it mean to you guys after the game? And I don't know if you knew this or not, but I think you guys snapped a losing streak against Federal League teams last night by beating Green. I think it was 10 or 11 games, whatever it was. What's that mean, Coach? I'll go to you first, and then I want Jacob to chime in on this as well, because you're an independent now, right? So you're basically the next team in the Federal League because you're playing pretty much a Federal League schedule. So what did it mean to get that win for both of you guys?
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, just seeing the community last night, we were watching a film playback, and the screen is the camera's jumping up and down because the stadium was rocking. It felt like Leopard football came back last night. It was Leopard football in the Ville came back last night. And so, it was just an emotional moment for me and for our kids. I mean, I'm up there talking to the kids after the game, and we got players that are damn near in tears. And, it's just like, it was so emotional, and these kids have fought so hard, and we've had such a tough uphill battle. We're the smallest school playing in this big schedule. And and our kids just continue to grind and fight. And we were able to ring that victory bell last night on our field. So, but Dov, go ahead.
I mean, obviously we needed that win, for our playoffs ability to play. And also, like you said, I started as a sophomore at center, and we've never won a home game at my entire varsity career. So even more than just the Federal League win, the winning at home, we've never been able to experience that. So experience the real Leopard Nation community was just unreal.
Great stuff, guys. And I mean, a couple weeks left, a little bit to look forward to. What are we thinking for the rest of the season? Coach, what's your message specifically as, you got a lot of season left, really?
Yeah, we talked about this. Our goals are still there. We want to play postseason football. We accomplished a big goal last night. We wanted to win at home. And so we're going to continue to will 1 week at a time. Everything's like one play at a time, 1 week at a time with our schedule and our battle. And, we got one team on our schedule. It's Glen Oak, and we have to beat Glen Oak. We have to beat ourselves. That's what we have to do each week, is we have to play better each week, challenge ourselves, and one team on our schedule.
Guys, congratulations on the huge win. The Davide family bragging rights. It's going to be interesting to see how this thing plays out through the rest of the season. But congratulations and best of luck next week and throughout the rest of the year, guys.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us.
Great to have them in the huddle with us here on the Saturday morning huddle, brought to you by Spectrum Orthopedics. And how about that, man? He started as a center, right? He's a lineman. He plays on defense too. And they say, hey, let's throw him over on the offensive side of the ball and give him the ball. And of course, 112 yards rushing last night, scores a touchdown for them. Like he said, his first home victory. Imagine that, Billy, right? You're a sophomore, you're playing all these, and you don't have a home victory to show for it. So that was very emotional for all those kids to get a home win last night.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Tough to fathom. That was a question I wanted to ask Coach Kenny. You're down 23-7 in a run-first offense, in a run-centered offense. How do you come back? Yeah, time clock management, efficiency, energy at that point in the game. You're probably tired heading out into the third and fourth quarter. I mean, the way they got it done, and drive by drive, that's the simple answer, right? Is drive by drive. Take it one drive at a time. I like that line. You can't get 21 points in one drive, so you may as well try and get 7.
Well, the old baseball adage, you can't hit a 5-run homer, right? If you're down 6 or 7 runs, you got to chip away, and maybe you get a 3-run homer or a grand slam, but there are no 5 or 6-run homers. So great job by Louisville last night. Leopard Nation proud, get a home victory. Ben Stouffer, I'm sure the mini Winnie was there tailgating before and after that victory last night for Leopard Nation. All right, let's bring in our next guest here on the Spectrum Orthopedics Saturday morning huddle, and that would be Dr. A.J. Seth. He's an orthopedic surgeon at Spectrum, and he joins us each and every Saturday. Doc, how are you this morning?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hey, we're fantastic. Thanks for getting up with us today on the huddle. And Doc, you and I were texting back and forth. What did we want to get into today? And I think you brought up a great topic. You said, why don't we get into concussions based on what happened with Tua Tagovailoa this past week? We got Myles Garrett, who was in a car accident, doesn't have a concussion supposedly, but was banged around and everything like that. And concussions are unfortunately such a big part of football at all levels. How about at the high school level? Take us through being a sideline doctor for games over the years and dealing with concussions and how they've changed over the years since you've been doing it.
Yeah, so after seeing the Tua problem when we talked about this morning, I thought it'd be a great topic to talk about. When I was taking care of Glen Oak, this was back in I think I started 2006. It was a lot different. What we would do, it was still that sideline test. My son was asking me last night, like, what were the questions we would ask? So somebody would come off the field, we would ask the general questions, how many fingers, and do you know the date, and who's the president? Just basic questions you should know. And there really wasn't like a hardcore way of doing it. And then it's the University of Pittsburgh came up with this impact test. And this impact test is really the gold standard, where you're taking a test before the season. And then if you get a concussion, you take the test again. And the thing is, it's a computerized test, and you can't beat the test. You can't fake the test. I was just listening this morning to Dan Patrick, and Drew Brees was talking about how many times he lied about his concussion because he wanted to come back in. And so this test prevents you from doing that. The biggest thing is that you can't let these kids or players come back. So that was when I was at Glen Oak years ago. And then when I started taking over Hoover, it was an interesting thing. You really have to watch the players, especially coming off the field. When they come off the field, you can kind of tell, especially if they start to go away from you. You find them, and then something's going on. But here's the interesting thing. I always, if I thought so, I would take their helmet away first and hide their helmet because they can't go back in then. But on the sidelines, you don't have the impact test. But it was really interesting that I saw that with these concussions, you could tell the severity. And we would take them in the locker room. And I'm telling you what, you would have a kid, I remember this, who was a super calm kid, never got, agitated. He just started going, nuts. You had to have two people to, get him to calm down. And then they actually start to cry. I mean, it's this emotional thing. And the minute I see that, I'm thinking concussion right away. And I was always to err on the conservative side. I would tell the parents they need to go to the ER to get looked at or checked. Your biggest problem with concussion is, number one, recognizing it early. So if you look at Tua, there is no back injury that makes you get up, stumble, walk, stumble again. There's no back injury. Even if you sustain a neck injury, you can see it because their arm is kind of dangling down. You know it's a stinger. So the problem on that was, they let him go back in the game. Now, interestingly, every NFL sideline has a doctor, an independent doctor, and then there's somebody in the booth who overlooks the field to catch people that are showing it. So the problem with concussion, especially in high school, is recognizing it. But then you pull them out, and they can't return to any contact until they clear. For us at Hoover was the impact test, and they have to be symptomatic free. You can't have a headache. You can't be sensitive to light. You have to be 100% good. Now, when the docs here at high school, I'm volunteering on the sidelines. It's way too much of a risk. There's no reason to get these kids back sooner than what they need to be, because you're just risking an injury. And here's what people don't realize. There is something called the second impact syndrome. That's the problem. So it's estimated that there's 3 million concussions per year in the U.S. in sports. And the biggest problem with that, is that second impact. They think they're better. And what happens is you go back in too soon. You get hit, concussion. It doesn't even have to be a full-blown concussion. You could just come off with a headache. What happens is, and they have no idea what causes this second impact syndrome, you have a problem of change of blood flow to the brain. Your brain actually kind of herniates or gets swollen. And it's very rare, but it's happened. And what's interesting is a student got a concussion, got a CT scan 4 days later, which was cleared, but he had a severe headache. Went back to play, got a hit, died that day. And so just because you have a normal CT scan, you can't say, we're ready to play. There's a lot of things that go into it. And, as a doctor, it's not worth the risk of that. It's pretty rare, but somebody has to have it happen. And at high school level, you got your whole life in front of you. It's horrible as a doctor to tell somebody they can't play. I mean, that's one of the worst things as a doctor to tell these kids. There was a kid, Jackson Davis, out of Hoover, phenomenal running back. And I remember when he couldn't play, it was devastating to kind of end his career because of it, a problem he had. So I know the kids don't want to hear the concussion protocol, but it's really for their own good. And when I took care of Glen Oak and Hoover, Coach Garcia and Coach Baum were great about it. The minute I said they're out, and they can't come back until they're cleared. So, we've had blessed with coaches that understand it. Probably in the old days, it was, how many times people got their bell rung.
Right.
And now you see that whole CTE coming up. And, that's where these concussions occur over and over again. And the problem with CTE is there's no treatment. So people can changes down the road, right? Nobody knows why. But then they do a brain autopsy and they died from suicide often because of CTE, which is spots on the brain they're seeing from repetitive concussions. Once you get it, you guys, there's no treatment. I mean, it's with you. And so long term, you got to look at these kids with concussions from soccer, especially football, any sports, really be really conservative.
Doc, let me ask you, in the medical community, are concussions something that we're still learning about? Is there still a lot to learn with concussions? Comparing them to hearts or shoulders, things like that. Are we behind on concussion learning?
Yeah, I definitely think we're behind. And the reason is you can get a CT scan and it can be completely normal, but you still have symptoms. That's the problem. There's no great test that says you have a concussion, but we call it a concussion. It doesn't mean that you take a blow to the head and you can still remember stuff, but you don't have some kind of underlying injury. CT scan is not going to pick it up. So they go get a CT scan, it's normal. Well, right now, the best thing we have is that impact test because you can't fake it. But the only way you're taking that impact test, interestingly, is if you get caught having a concussion. So it's not the game time that worries me as much. It's the practice often where you can get a concussion in practice, but it's missed because nobody's watching you. And then the kids don't, give you an example, McKinley Massillon week. Somebody gets a little concussion in practice. They're not going to go they don't come tell us. It's they want to play. And so practice is just as bad as the game, but we always hear, they got a concussion during the game. What about practice? That's where I think you could get into big trouble.
What about the mushroom helmets we're seeing now that they're putting on top of the helmets that the NFL is experimenting with, Doc? Is that a positive step? And could we see maybe at least the interior linemen who bang heads on every play being forced to wear those in games as well as practice?
So everything for me is all based, there's this thing called PubMed. And anything that I do is all research based. So if I want to look something up, I go to PubMed, and because it's not written by, they're actually research papers. There still isn't enough studies on that. I mean, that's something new. We're just saying, this could help because you're going to cushion the impact. But again, there's not enough studies done that says you hit once, hit twice in the game over and over again. Are these really going to protect you from those? We don't know. And I'll be honest with you on this one. They have those, the helmets that used to tell if there was a concussion or a hard hit. I'll be honest with those. There were times where you would get a little signal notice that so-and-so had a hard hit 3 days ago, and they would come up. So when they talk about how great those are, they're not. Everybody thinks they're so great because they can tell you if you have a concussion. It doesn't work that way.
Sorry, Dr. Guardian Cap, the stat that said that they erased concussions by 50%. You don't think that kind of is true?
No, because in order to do that, they have what's called it's called a meta-analysis. But basically, they look at 30 studies, all based on it, and really see if it's true. Because you know what? If you have 5 people and 4 people, 3 people like the color blue and 2 don't, well, then you could say the majority of people like blue. Well, no, your sample size was 5 people. So a lot of these studies, they take 20 people, unless you get a giant study. And, the problem is, in order to do that, you do a giant study. You take somebody after a game, you get a CT scan or MRI just to see the changes. But nobody's going to do that. So a lot of these studies, you have to take a look at how big is the study, because it's easy to say, oh, it's 50% decrease. There's no great study on it.
So, Coach, and we got Coach Baum coming up here in just a few minutes. So before we get to him, what advice would you give parents, players, coaches on either A, is there a way to try and prevent it, or B, if you think you have a concussion, what do you do?
So what I think it is you try to ingrain into the kids about long-term. There's not a lot of guys who are going D1 here in anywhere, let alone trying to make it to the NFL. If you look at how many kids have played football here, you've had a couple guys, quite a few actually made it to the NFL, but it's 10, 15, 20 compared to all the people who have played. So I think it's ingraining into them that, yeah, you're playing, but you got to look at your long-term health. So, one of the big things is the parents. You have to, when they get home, is notice. If you notice changes, you got to be proactive. You got to tell training staff or whoever, because like I said, during practice, it may not be caught. So my big thing is educating the parents more so even than the training staff. Educating the parents on, okay, if you see these changes, because you know your kid better than anybody, but if all of a sudden you start to see him complain of a headache, which isn't, say, normal, even, kids don't get a ton of headaches. But if they start to complain of headaches or something changes, that's the most important thing. And during these training, like at the beginning of the season, you have a lot of these where they talk to the students, the parents about drugs, alcohol, which is great. But we need to have them talking about the concussion and the signs to look for at home, because that's where I think you can catch most of these concussions. Real quick, those nets that go around, I don't know if you've ever seen, at the NHL, they have nets that go around the whole stadium now for hockey. It's because when I was a resident, I remember this, there was a young girl at the Columbus Blue Jackets game.
Yep.
Got hit with a puck in the head, went to the hospital, clear CT, unfortunately went home, had what's called a subdural bleed and died. And that's why those nets are there. So you can't really just base it. Well, the hospital said the CT scan is clear. You can't base it on that. You have to base it. To me, it's all symptom based. Impact test is great to get back to play. But if your kid is complaining of sensitivity to light or this horrible headache, that's where the problem comes. And you have to be really careful about, what you do with that.
Doc, we still have a minute or two left. If you do get a concussion, we'll let you go hit off the first tee there. If you do get a concussion, what can you do?
Yeah.
What's the treatment at home with the sports teams? What can be done?
Yeah. So the biggest thing to me is quiet environments, taking the lights down. You never want to give ibuprofen. That's the number one thing to me. Ibuprofen thins the blood, so you don't want any kind of bleeding if it may happen. You could use Tylenol, that's fine. However, you have to really even keep them at home and monitor them. And the first thing to me, don't hesitate. If you're worried about it, go to the ER and or your pediatrician to get a neutral point of view. Because sometimes you need that neutral point of view where the doc is we're the bad guys who say you can't play. Because, if a parent says you're not playing, that doesn't go over well. But as a parent, don't be hesitant to get help, seek help if you notice a change, because it's not worth taking that risk.
Totally agree with you on that 100%, Doc. And since our next guest isn't in our green room just yet, one more question. Myles Garrett did not suffer a concussion supposedly in his car accident, but the car repeatedly rolled 3-4 times, whatever it was. He burst a blood vessel in his eye, had a bump on his head, his shoulder sprain, a bicep strained, and they're thinking of playing him this week. And I'm on the Kenny and JT show saying, please, Cleveland Browns, you haven't done a lot of good things organizationally over the years, but this is one of your premier players. I'm no doctor, but there's got to be some sort of trauma that happened to his brain 20 miles over the speed limit in that type of a crash. I can't see how they would play him this week, even if he says he's fine. Doc, am I nuts?
No, I think you're right on. First of all, we're in game 4. No reason to risk that. Second of all, to me, one of the biggest things is Myles Garrett isn't going to tell you everything that's really, truly going on. He's really not going to tell you his true injuries, and that's the problem. If he's having headaches, he's not telling the guys. And you can't
that's
even
all
tell.
athletes,
How do you know
right? I mean, in
everybody,
the NFL, Coach, right?
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you get this shoulder injury, which to me, I understand that, the players are going to minimize what they have. And so he could have the opposite shoulder hurt. He could have pain in his biceps. He's not telling you because these guys want to play. So to me, the only way you do it is you keep him out so you can really let him recover and find out if there's anything else going on. I mean, the Tua situation, he had a concussion for sure. Don't tell me he didn't have a concussion. The second thing is when he fell and hit his head, he went into that posturing position, which it's called fencing. When you kind of get, and you kind of, if you saw his hand and fingers, it kind of curled up. 100% that's a brain injury. They check him out, and then they let him fly where there's altered air pressure. So I'm like, who's taking care of this? So to answer your question, there's no way I would play Myles Garrett until you give him rest and you see how he does. Play. You look at Mayfield, your biceps, your rotator cuff prevent your head from dislocating, right? So he got injured by putting his arm out on a tackle. If your shoulder is 7%, you're not going to play well. The rule at Ohio State when I was down there was you have to be 90% strength on your shoulder before we would let you come back. And that was that whole Maurice Claret thing. I don't know if you remember. He made all these contraptions for his shoulder. We never did it. He would come out on the field. With his own. I mean, we're like, what is that? He's making his own contraptions. So these shoulder biceps injury, there's much more involved, and that's where you can injure it.
Right. Hey, Doc, we appreciate the time. Great insight as always. Good luck on the course today. Hit them straight and minimal putting, drive for show, putt for dough. And then we'll talk to you again next Saturday in the huddle. All right.
Sounds good. Tell Coach Baum I said hi. And I guess you have Luke Roach coming on.
Yes.
That's a Brewer back. I mean, that kid can run that ball. So tell him I said hi.
Will do, Doc. Thanks so much for joining us. There is Dr. A.J. Seth from Spectrum Orthopedics. And Billy, I only called him Coach one time, I think, today. That's good. I'm improving. I only called him Coach once. It just comes out. Like normally it's, we're talking to coaches or a player and it's, Dr. A.J. Seth. But great stuff on the concussions. And I agree 100% with him. Err on the side of caution, especially at the high school level, right? They're gladiators in the NFL. They get paid to play. They know the consequences in that violent sport. But as Dr. Seth told us, high school, most of these kids aren't going to play at the next level. And you want them to live a happy, productive, healthy life. And so you don't want to take any chances with concussions. And so that's why we love having Doc on with us and giving us that insight as only he can here on the Spectrum Orthopedics Saturday morning huddle. So we'll hook up here with Brian Baum shortly, the head coach of Hoover. They had a big win last night over Perry, a good bounce back win for them after getting trounced by McKinley the previous week. Hoover bounces back and wins 24-14 last night. And you see the scores from all the games throughout Stark County on the bottom of our screen there here on the Saturday morning huddle. And you can see how your team did. And we're trying to get as many different coaches, players on as we can to talk about the big games. And Coach Baum and Luke Roach, the running back who ran for 99 yards, going to join us here very shortly on the huddle, Billy. And okay, bring him in.
Coach.
Hey, good to have.
Good morning.
Hey, great. Good morning. How are you on this Saturday morning after a big Federal League win like that last night?
We're doing well this morning. It's always nice to get a win in the Federal League and to go out there. We had a nice performance. It was one of those team wins that you can be proud of as a staff and the team.
Coach, let's jump right to it. That turf you guys have, it's beautiful. It's nice. It got you 4 wins, but I think everybody wanted to see you win on the road. How did it feel to get it done traveling?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't do well on the road in our first 2 attempts, and we had to make some changes. And I thought it went real well there, Perry. I was real proud of our guys and getting one there on the road. You got to become a road warrior, especially if you want to do something in the Fed.
What adjustments did you make, Coach, to get the road win last night?
Hey, nothing that probably led to the win, but we had music in the locker room, the timing of stuff getting there. We were just trying to change them up. We wore black pants on the road instead of the white, so I was doing anything and everything I could to break those 42-9 losses that we had the first 2 games.
Love it. Getting the haircut, getting all the pre-workout stuff in for good luck, right?
Absolutely.
Going forward, Coach, I mean, you guys are up towards the top of the Federal League and sitting at a great record so far this season. What do you tell the guys with a couple weeks left? I mean, you got the conference at stake. You got playoffs at stake. What's the message right now?
We have to focus on a good Lake team, and that's what we addressed today. I said, hey, they're going to start talking playoffs, all that stuff. No, we got to focus on a good Lake team. And, that's what we did today. We watched the Perry film. A lot of good things we need to fix yet, but our focus on 100% of the Lake Blue Streaks.
Last night, you get the win 24-14 over Perry, at Perry. Your quarterback, Carson Derlin, 18 of 28, $157 throwing, 12 carries, 80 yards, a touchdown on the ground, almost 250 yards total offense in that win last night for you. How was he able to bounce back, as well as the entire team, from that McKinley loss the previous week, Coach?
These kids are resilient. They're looking for that next week, and we all knew we had to have a better week of practice. We did that, and I watched it. I'll go back to McKinley film, watch that, and they did some really good things there with their O-line. Nina Hill was tough. They made us look bad, and we turned the ball over. So we went out there defensively. We took that personal. We said, hey, we got to do a better job. I thought we did that, and we did not turn the ball over. That goes a long way.
Coach, you guys, we talked about the players you lost last year. Clearly, you're making the most of the guys you have now. You have a great record. Luke Reguglio, he's doing both sides of the ball right now. I saw he had 2 touchdowns last night. What's the decision there when you guys get close to the goal line to go with him?
We get down there, we get in our hammer package, which is, the sack eye, and, he's the near guy. He's that fullback for wedge. And, we have a big line, and they did a nice job there, got a couple touchdowns. So we didn't have to do really anything off of that.
Offensively, you did some good things last night, Coach, but what I'm most impressed with, coming off of, I think, a 255-yard game, DeAndre Church, you held him to 85 yards and only 1 touchdown last night going against that wing T offense. How was your defense able to do that last night?
We had a couple real good edge setters, and they're only sophomores. They went out there and they were going to hit their guards, and our linebackers did a nice job filling gaps. And obviously, it was a team effort. Everyone was hustling the ball, and they still got some of their plays in there, but we were the bend don't break style, which is you make them earn it slow. We did a good job with that.
Coach, going forward, you get to a certain point in the season. You guys have done different things. You've won some games. Does the game plan change at all? Or are you going to try and do some new things with a couple weeks left?
No, we have to try to adjust and see what they're doing and find a way to get our playmakers the ball. Mason Ashby, Zach Brocker, Derlin himself, and our running back who's with me, Luke Roach.
Let's bring him in. Yeah, bring the running back in. Let's talk to him now, Coach.
Yeah, before I turn it over to him, man, what a gutsy performance. We weren't sure what we were going to get out of him. He was a game-time decision. He went out there, and he just worked his tail off, did a great job on one leg for us. So, Luke Roach.
All right, Luke, thanks for making time for us here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. Congratulations on the big win. How important was it, Luke, for you, your teammates, and Viking Nation to bounce back after that loss the previous week?
Obviously, it was really important. We had to make a name for ourselves in the Federal League, obviously coming off of a Federal League championship last year. So we need to show these teams that we still have it and we still got a chance to win this. So,
Luke, you guys get the big road win. I just talked to Coach about that, but I think a lot of people are excited and they like the new turf. Talk just about how it feels and what you guys kind of thought as you're undefeated so far at home.
Yeah, I mean, it's really nice turf. It feels really good to play on, and it doesn't really hurt to get tackled like last year. Last year it felt like carpet, so it's definitely an improvement this year.
That's always nice, the comforts of home and everything like that. And it looks good on top of all that, Luke. For you, being dinged up like you were and gutting it out last night, when did you know you'd be able to go, and how did it feel during the game? How do you feel this morning?
I knew as soon as I ran like one route in the pregame, I was like, okay, maybe I can pull this off. And then slowly and surely, the adrenaline started kicking in, and we started running the ball a little at pregame, and I was like, yeah, I can definitely play. So.
And did you expect 20 carries, though, or was it just that happened and it didn't bother you? So you said, Coach, I'm good. Keep feeding me.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. So.
Tell me this, Luke, when you guys drive all the way down the field, when you get close, and then you run a hammer package, and Gruguglio or somebody else, oh, it looks like we lost him.
Oh, we'll get him back here. I know where you're going with the question, though, Billy, right? He does all the hard work, and then they get into the red zone. Next thing you know, they're giving the ball to somebody else, right?
Yeah, who owes him a burger at that point? And you think Coach Baum or Gruguglio for taking he took 2 touchdowns from him last night.
Yeah, if you had Luke Roach in your fantasy league, you're screaming, lad. What do you mean he didn't get the touchdown? He took him all the way down the field there along with Ashby, and then you bring the hammer package in there. So we'll have to – I think both. I think he gets a burger from Gruguglio and from Coach Baum there on that. So we'll see if we can get him back and ask him about that. But how about that performance last night by Hoover, Billy? As he said, 42-9. McKinley crushed them the previous week. We did the game. We were there. I watched it. And McKinley dominated that football game. And for them to be able to block that out, put that in the rearview mirror, look out the windshield, what's ahead, that was extremely impressive by Hoover last night to get that win. And hey, they're like he said, they won the Federal League last year. Okay, so they're still the defending champs, and they're not going to go down without a fight. And so they're right back in the thick of things. In fact, can you put up the standings real quick, Billy, from the Federal League while we wait to try and get reconnected there with Coach Baum and with Luke Roach? Here are the standings now in the Federal League. Look at this. You've got McKinley 3-1. You've got Lake 2-1 and Hoover 2-1. So both Lake and Hoover are a half game behind McKinley because McKinley's played one more Federal League game. So this is up in the air with 3 weeks to play in the Federal League, and that should make for some great football down the stretch for everybody going to games and for us, whatever games we pick to do on the radio, TV, or streaming. Yeah,
well, we do our bold predictions pregame. Myself and George Bazika, I went off script. I decided, I said, you know what, I'm thinking about my game, but I had an eye on that game, and I said, I made a bold prediction for McKinley Lake, and then I said, but George, I want to add in there, Hoover and Perry, that is a must-win game, and whoever wins that game is on the up and up. That was my bold prediction. Both those teams sat at 4-2. They both were coming off good wins or tough losses with Jackson and your game. So I said, it's a must-win. It's an up and up type of game. You get that win and you move on. Congrats to Hoover. That's huge. And like you said, they're getting performances when you need it. Late in the season, guys are banged up, and Federal League's on the line. Hoover pulls it out on the road. A must win. I mean, how many times did I talk about it? They hadn't won on the road. They had to win on the road.
Right. Yeah, and here's the thing, though. Looking at those standings on the bottom of the page, Billy, McKinley controls its own destiny, though, right? McKinley now has played one extra game, and they already picked up a victory in the Federal League. So they've got Jackson at home this coming week, right? And then Glen Oak on the road, and they're done in the Federal League because that last game, of course, is always the McKinley-Massillon game. Right. So they control their own destiny. If McKinley wins the next 2 games, the worst case scenario for them is a share of the Federal League. All right. And this was a team that started 0-4. Now, if you're Hoover, and I'm looking ahead, and I love our handy dandy pocket schedules here that I'm holding up right now. I carry this thing with me everywhere I go. All right. So I'm looking at this. Hoover let's see. They have a home game against Lake, which is going to be tough. Then a home game against Green, and they close it out their rivalry game at Jackson. So they've got at least 2 really tough games to play in the Federal League left. And then you look at Lake this week, as we mentioned, they'll be on the road at Hoover. Then they have Perry on the road and Green at home. So it's going to be tough. And Jackson, they've got an outside shot still at this thing, right? You've got McKinley and Hoover left. They've played 4 Federal League games, so they have to win their next 2 and hope that these teams in front of them all lose at least 1 game. So McKinley, who'd have thunk this, Billy, after week 7? If you would have told me after week 4, McKinley's 0-4, that they'd be in the driver's seat to win the Federal League, after the next 3 weeks, I would have told you were crazy, but that's exactly the situation.
Well, look, great point there. What are the whispers? The whispers around town and at these games are, Kenny, could 5-5 or 6-4 get them in the playoff? That's the whisper. What's the most losses they can take and still get in? I think, 5-5, a lot of people keep mentioning that. 6-4, they're hot enough to be 6-4 at the end.
Yep.
Great questions, and Federal League play is key in that.
Yeah, let's throw some of these questions up from our viewers out there, Billy, over there about the Federal League. From Mick Goggle threw us a question about the Federal League. And here it is. I was shocked to see that McKinley won. So how do you think Federal League makes the playoffs? Well, I think a lot of teams in the Federal League are going to make the playoffs, right? Lake's in the playoffs. They were number 1 in Division 2. They lost to a Division 1 team. Remember that now, right? Lake's D2, McKinley's D1. So factor that in there. Hoover's going to make the playoffs. McKinley's going to make the playoffs. Jackson's got a shot at making the playoffs. Green, last time I checked, they were in the top 10. They're going to make the playoffs. Perry's got a shot at the playoffs. So you may have all the teams with the exception of Glen Oak, and even Glen Oak was in the playoff picture.
Expanded. And it's real expanded. From what you just read, I think WHBC's got a shot at the playoff. I think we could get in there, squeeze in. But, I think that's the beauty of it. We had the odd year, I want to say 3 years ago, the COVID year. Remember, everybody got in. And then I think, the OSHAA and the leagues and what everybody kind of said, hey, it was really nice having so many teams make the playoffs. So many teams get a shot. Upsets, number 1. Number 2, teams like McKinley that are better than what they started.
Right.
And then teams like, say, Jackson, who's gutted it out this season. They take a tough loss, they get a big win. They take a tough loss, they get a big win. Over and over again. That's how it is, and I kind of like it. I like the expanded playoff, and like you said, Kenny, we're going to see a slew of Stark County teams there.
Yeah, a shout out to Randall J. Chapman for checking us out here on the Saturday Morning Huddle. We love our viewers that are checking us out and also dropping us some comments in the comment section. You can do that. So thanks for tuning in, Randall. And then he followed up with this, Billy, and people are already starting to look ahead, right? Massillon Tigers played 3 big games in the last 3 weeks and fighting for a nice wins. They beat Delaware last night. We'll get to that in a second. They got a New York team coming up, and then McKinley getting better. How about that last game? It's shaping up where if McKinley can win their next 2 games, they'll be 5-4 going into that game. You've got Massillon. They lost their opener to Moeller. They could be 8-1 going into that last game, setting up another great classic showdown between the 2 arch rivals.
Well, look, and I think the nice thing is I noted this last night. For McKinley, they usually play at a Lake level or a Hoover level where they're top of the Fed and they're battling it out and they've got, a large amount of wins, but they have the McKinley game at the end of the year. Don't you think it's kind of nice, Kenny, that they've had a different storyline that they've had to battle through and they're not necessarily thinking about Massillon at the end of the year and that game. And, they got their own business to worry about. They've had to clean this season up and, they may just get to the end and say, oh, we've had such a bounce back, regain ourselves season. This game is nothing. We'll get back at them too.
Well, they need to because they've lost, 6 or 7? I've lost track. It was like the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry that wasn't a rivalry for 10 years, right? So, yeah. But I can guarantee you Antonio Hall's not focused on Massillon just yet. He wants to win that Federal League and needs the next 2 games to do so and finish 5-1. And like I said, worst-case scenario for him will be a tie. Why don't we, before we get to our next guest, why don't we show everybody who our WHBC Spectrum Orthopedics Player of the Week is based on what he did last night, and it was the game that we called on WHBC. And take that bottom scroll off there, Billy, with the standings, and we can get all of his numbers in there so everybody can see that. Poochie Snyder just outstanding in his performance last night throughout the entire game to keep his team in there and give them a shot. Billy, he threw an interception in the fourth quarter that a lot of us thought, oh, that's it. There was the one defensive stop that one of the teams needed, and Fairless was able to make it, and they go down. It looks like Fairless is either going to run out the clock or take a 2-score lead, and a simple shotgun snap from center goes awry. Either it was too high or the quarterback took his eye off the ball. Fairless fumbles, and then Pucci takes it down the field, scrambles. Do we have the touchdown play as well? It was one of his 7 carries that racked him up 74 yards, and it was the touchdown that put him within 1. Watch this play. It ends up being a quarterback draw, and he runs this thing to perfection. Look at this. Whoop. And somebody got faked out of their jock strap right there by Pucci Snyder. One more time. Roll that back one more time. That's a thing of beauty, man. They're down 7 points with 4 minutes to go. They run this. Great call, first of all. And then look at the cutback there. And he just runs away from everybody. And Pucci Snyder with that touchdown to make it 38-37 at that point. And then they knew all along they were going to go for the 2-point conversion, Billy. And they had practiced it all week long. And they called it. They executed it, and they get the win 39-38. So congratulations to Pucci Snyder, our WHBC Spectrum Orthopedics Player of the Week, let me get his 390 all-purpose yards in the victory last night. 3 TDs rushing, 1 TD pass, 1-2.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, play it. Let our viewers hear what it sounded like on the road last night for Canton South, going for 2 in the win here. How about that play, man? Something they worked on. They knew it could work. And I talked with Coach Dennison after the game about it, and we'll talk to him coming up here at the top of the hour. He actually stole this play from an opponent who beat him with it years ago, Billy. So we always hear about the NFL, how it's a copycat league. They bring Tavon Castle in motion, and that way it gets him moving already. They throw him the ball, and he either keeps coming in motion because that's how the blocks are set up, or he can put his foot in the ground and cut back and go to the outside. Watch, there's the leg movement. That sends Castle in motion. There's the pass, and then boom, and he takes it in and goes straight ahead and gets the 2-point conversion. That put him up 39-38. Now, Fairless still had a chance to come back in that game. They had the ball with 2 minutes to go and a couple of timeouts. Give the defense credit for Canton South riding that momentum. They were able to get a turnover on downs after recovering a fumble. So the last 2 defensive series for Canton South, as they struggled all game long. But when the game was on the line, yeah, they were a little lucky because of a bad snap or the quarterback taking his eye off the ball and it was a fumble. But they were there to recover it, right? Give the ball back to Pucci, and then had a 1-point lead. All Fairless needed was a field goal to win the game, and 4 downs, boom, they were out, and they won the game. That's a great comeback road victory. What's the best way to put it? It's a big culture-building win, I think, for Canton South under Matt Dennison.
Like you said, it kind of ignites that rivalry, starts that idea that, man, how long did it look like Fairless was unbeatable? You know, even with that loss to CVCA, that was a close one. Canton South already had 2 losses on their marker. It felt like that was Fairless's game to win. I want to ask you 2 things about that game. Okay, let's start here.
Yep.
This last play, I want to run it one more time, the 2-point conversion. Right. As this is happening, we listened to the volume version of it, which we can do again if you want, but you heard somebody shout right here, "It's a QB sneak! It's a QB sneak!" Did you think that was what was going to happen, Kenny?
No, because he was under center. If they were going to run the QB sneak, I think they would have put him in the shotgun position. And so run it one more. Give the audio version of this, and then we'll get to Trucker Lindensmith because this is a play that all week, Billy, and it worked to perfection for them. Give them the audio version of this 2-point conversion for the win. Great crowd we had last night. Canton South traveled well. The Falcons' Nest, they were getting ready to sing the Ring of Fire afterwards after a big victory. And I talked to AJ Sarbaugh after the game, and AJ's an upbeat guy, right? He was down in the dumps, and I understand why. They led the whole game. They controlled the game, and one fundamental mistake they made ended up costing them the game. Bad snap, shotgun. They're 1st and 10 at the 25 of Canton South, going in to either take a 2-score lead or run out the clock, and just a simple snap from center, the fundamentals. And I had been talking all game long about how well they were fundamentally. And my goodness, that one mistake, and give Canton South credit, they capitalized on it, and they went for 2 and got the win. And our next guest knows a little bit about going for 2 in the win in a close game. Let's bring in the head coach at Central Catholic, our good buddy, Jeff Trucker Lindesmith. Coach, thanks for getting up and joining us in the huddle again. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
Hey, we're good, man. And 2-point conversions for the win. It seems like a lot of times coaches screw this overtime stuff. If we have a play that we've practiced that we're confident in, we're going to go for the win. And was that the case a couple of weeks ago for you, Coach? And do you see that as the norm maybe these days?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with, how the game's going. High-scoring games, you're not stopping a lot of people. Your defense is struggling. For us, a lot of times at the end of the game, we have so many guys that play 2 ways. You're starting to get tired. And I know that as a team, we start in the summer working on some 2-point conversions, things that we think are position-wise are an advantage to things. And if you, like any coach, I think you got 3 yards to win a game, and you got some talent, and you got some things in our Canton South and the talent they have, and what they have last night, 3 yards, or hey, let's go for it. And it's probably a higher percentage play.
Coach, I was tracking your game, watching on the scoreboard while we were doing ours, and seemed like it was 7-0 for a while. I mean, I'm sure it felt longer to you. I've got some film to roll for you. Walk us through this first touchdown and your feeling after you guys finally evened it up.
Yeah, this is the second down play, and they're bringing a lot of pressure. And throughout the second quarter, we had a hard time picking up their outside pressures, and they were running a lot of corner blitzes. This time we caught them in a cover 3. We ran a little running back swing here. Just got enough chip. If you can see that Dan Boron is the inside, chipped their high safety along with his roll safety that was on him that got Alex Anderson to the edge. Alex just swung out and tried to knock it down, and just got enough of that corner, and he dove it in for our first touchdown of the game.
How about the efforts there, Coach, by Bourne and Anderson? The chip just enough, right? So many plays, you remember the old Al Pacino, the inches and everything, right? But that matters in football, doesn't it?
You better believe it. And that is a great quote. Al Pacino, that's a good show. But, it's just enough. We always talk a lot about to our wideouts, and our offense depends a lot on their blocking. And we work hard on their blocking. And you can just see there's Jack Hopkins just getting a nice dry block there. Just enough. We got enough skill, enough little fanciness with our feet that we can usually make somebody miss it's in front of us. And Alex does a great job at that. But we need our wideouts to block, and we preach that every day. We say if you guys are stat people, and a lot of people talk to you about stats, and you have a big game and you have 8 catches. Well, what happened on the other 68 offensive plays you have? You're blocking. So it's very, very important. And, our coaches, we grade film, and believe it or not, we had guys that had 8 catches, 120 yards that didn't get a passing grade because, their grades only came out to be about 60% when it comes to run blocking, and that's 60%, and it's not very good. So we keep a close tab on that.
All right, Coach, let's go through 2 more plays here. This one, you guys snagged the lead late in the third quarter. I'm sure this was a good feeling for you too. These next 2 plays I'm going to show you, though, I think the effort is just what you see on these 2 plays, but break this down for us.
Yeah, this takes a lead right here, and we're running. We caught them off of their weak side a little bit. They were trying to bring this corner a lot of times, and now they're going to roll their safety to us, and we're running just a simple isolation. we're base blocking one side. Alex Anderson is the fullback, is going to try to block the front side backer. Big Jack Talkington's is going to be running it. So a lot of people that know football a little bit see an I formation where you have a fullback and a running back. In our offense, our fullback and our quarterback are pretty much the same. They can do some different things when it comes running the ball. The big block we have is once again down here. Dan Boron gets down to their roll safety. Just at the bottom, he's in the middle of the screen right here, and he gets down to this roll safety number 10. I'm sorry, that's Drew Neal. Andrew Neal makes that block, and what we call that is a touchdown block. If our inside slot can get to that high safety and just chip him, we've got enough skill to make the cut. Jack Talkington made a nice cut, and we got the touchdown block by him, and off we went. That was it's a big one for us. I believe that was right in the fourth quarter, right in the beginning of the fourth quarter was when we took the lead.
Billy, run that again, because I want to ask him with his outside lineman here. His job is to let the rusher get into the backfield, right? Push him up the field, Coach, because you're running the trap inside. Is that right?
Yeah, it all depends on what you see. Number 9 on the outside, I think, Kenny, that's who you're talking about. They brought the inside linebacker, their outside backer in a blitz, so that guy's going to be in contain. So he's played a little bit wider normally. And our kids really adjusted as the game went on. They did some of these things that we had not seen, but they were trying to come inside of 70 right there. Jonathan Stangl, number 9, will be way too far wide on that play. He can't come down. If he's pinching down, that's the only chance he can get our quarterback. And you can see he's not pinching down. They're going to try to run a little game inside with the outside backer, and we just get enough of them in there to score. But you're right, Kenny, that we had a little bit of trouble with that probably for 2 quarters, and we were looking at some base blocking schemes that were freeing some of their blitz and linebackers up, and their safeties. They were doing a lot of different things for that, and they did a good job at it, and they kept us quiet for about 2.5 quarters.
Coach, one more thing, and then we'll get to your maybe favorite touchdown, your final touchdown on this play. Okay, as we're watching it happen here, talk a little bit about blocking, the athleticism that goes into it, right? Yeah. A big score to take the lead. Celebration.
Is that the same play?
Break down the celebration for us.
Billy, was that the same play? Yeah, that one looked like the same play. Want me to talk about the
celebration, Billy? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yeah. I said we'll get to the final touchdown.
Okay.
I want to break it one more time. Once we hit the end zone, what are your thoughts on the guys' celebrations? What do you think?
Well, you know what? They better not celebrate too much, but I want them to be excited for what they do. And you can see Jack's pretty fired up. It's a good, nice one, but they better do it together. And we always try to preach, you hear the old saying, you act like you've done it before, but sometimes, what these kids see and the excitement and the energy, I want them to have that. And we've had teams sometimes that just drop the ball and come back to the huddle, and I don't like that necessarily either. As long as they do it together, they have some fun together that way, and they're not showing up the other team. They should do that.
All right, final play here. Here's the touchdown towards the end.
There we go. It's a nice touchdown. It's really a nice block on the outside. And what we did, we cross-blocked out here. We have man coverage. Sam Grant is number 15. You'll see he'll come back inside. He's trying to press the man to get to their high safety. Their high safety went to the other way. We motioned back inside. It looked like it might have been Hopkins coming back inside, and we're running a double isolation right there. We did not cross-block, which sometimes we will do. But we went base block on this side we did cross block it. There we go. We cross block it. Tommy Buckler and Jonathan Stangl switch base men. It's the old wing T play, which is a down play over there where they cross blocked. And we brought our motion guide to isolate a linebacker. We also brought Alex Anderson just in case we had an extra guy inside there that we can get 2 guys through the hole. And we let the big boy run a little bit right there. And well executed play. They pressed us a man on the outside, and sometimes that gives you a little bit of problems. 22, Dan Boron took his man out wide, and you'll see him in the end zone with the final touchdown block. Sammy Grant brought his guy inside. Might have tugged a little bit on the jersey right there, which we just talked about, but that goes on every play. But a well-executed play for the touchdown. I think that put us up 20-10, and our defense kind of took over towards the end of the game there.
Coach, the game we did last night, we saw 2 outstanding quarterbacks, Carson Colucci for Fairless, and of course, Poochie Snyder setting all kind of records as a junior. You've got one of the best athletes and football players in Stark County, and Jack Talkington, who goes both ways. But, at quarterback, we see him throwing it, running it. and we're going to have Matt Dennison on from Canton South here in just 1 second. But what's it like to have a guy like Talkington where depending on what the defense is doing, right? If they're stacking the line, he can throw it if he has to, and you have targets to get the ball to. If it's open there, he can run it as well. He's a dual threat. What's it like having that like Canton South has with Pucci?
Yeah, he's a threat to score anytime. It's really a gift to have somebody like that. Very talented, as you can see. He's got good feet. He can run. The thing I think is he's dangerous is sometimes when he runs people over and just keeps going. But he's got a great slide step. Jack will be the first one to tell you, I think he rushed the game a little bit last night in the first couple quarters, and some of the things they did that caused a little bit of our passing game not to be there. But we got back to it. I thought he had probably one of the best third and fourth quarters he's had throughout the course of the year this year or last night. Just slowed down a little bit. He was pressing, but you're right. We ask a lot of Jack. 8 tackles last night, 3 solos. He had a pick in the first series that went right through his hands. He probably would have taken to the house. He had 2 other knockdowns. He does a lot for us, and he's a talent, and he's got to be out in the field for, any coach would tell you somebody that good's got to be there.
All right, I'm going to ask you a question about him, and I want you to give us an answer. And the question is, you don't know Jack. So what don't we know about Jack Talkington that should be out there for everybody as they watch him play the rest of this year?
One of the biggest hearted kids you'll ever see. All he worries about is the team. I don't think he ever looks at stats. He doesn't worry about anything like that. He just wants this team to win, this team to get better. The media and everything around you guys do. You do a good job at, he talking stats, talking this and that. All he wants to do is win. I think that's the first time we won 2 games in a row from last year to this year. And that's the very first thing Jack said to me in the locker room last night. That's 2 in a row. Let's get moving. Let's try to get 3. And it's just an awesome kid.
20-10, the big win over Mentor Lake Catholic for Canton Central Catholic. And Coach, you're above 500. That's 2 in a row. You're healthy. Are you feeling good where this team is at moving forward?
Yeah, we're getting better. And that's important for us. Defensively was the area of our biggest concern, really young defensively. And the teams we had to play and we'll continue to play posed so much to us. The physicality of our first 6 games, the size we had to go against. Now we're starting to see some teams open it up a little bit more, throw the ball a little bit, and they're challenging our secondary, and they're growing. They're getting better. And it's 2 weeks in a row. I thought our defense got better, had some big stops on the goal line. Doing some better. We're tackling better too, which is important. Right. But we're getting there. Kenny, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Now, last night the temperature changed a little bit. Did you break out any of that warm gear that I've seen in the past?
Coach, I did not break out the Timothy Mozgov Elmer Fudd hat yet. It is not that cold. That is saved for special occasions when the temperatures below 20 degrees or there's a blizzard like in 2016 when you guys were playing your playoff game at Lake en route to a state championship. So that's only for special occasions.
Okay. Yeah, there was a lot of talk you might have broken out. Okay, I'll make sure I clarify that.
Yes, please do. But I did warm up after the game once I got home with some beverages, if you know what I mean.
There you go. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Trucker, thanks for making time for us. Continued success. Congratulations on the big win and for joining us in the huddle. And we'll talk again soon, all right?
Yep, my pleasure, guys. Have a great day.
There he is, Trucker Lindesmith. Huge win for them last night and very comparable, his team, I think, to Canton South. Young defense, stud quarterback, big victories last night by both teams. And let's bring in the head coach from Canton South, who I'm sure is still enjoying the win this morning with their huge Pac-7 win on the road at Fairless. Matt Dennison joining us right now. Coach, I asked another coach earlier this morning, does the film look as good this morning as it felt last night or better?
Yeah, the film looked pretty good this morning. We offensively, we played real well. Defensively, we actually played a little better than I thought we did. The things that we've got to fix are fixable, which is that's a good thing when you have a big win on the road against the returning champs. Last 2 weeks we've knocked off the 2 defending champs, and we got a little help last night from Northwest that set us up for taking care of our business and making our destiny our destiny under our control right now, which we really like as far as the league goes.
Coach, a game last night, everybody was talking about it really for the past 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks. How are you keeping your team level and ready for that game and not letting the hype take over?
Well, we really focused on getting better each week, and that's what we're still doing. And our kids are pretty level-headed kids for the most part as far as that goes. And we talk about a lot about our big goals all the time and what it takes. And we have one play at a time is one of the things we talk about a lot. Win the next play, and we go day to day and play to play, and we'll be all right. When we start looking ahead, but bad things happen, and that's what has been a point of emphasis for us the whole year.
One of the games of the night last night in Stark County. In fact, the 2 Pac-7 games may have been the best games of the night as Northwest gets a win over CVCA in overtime, 29-28 by going for 2. And Coach Dennison and his Wildcats, led by Poochie Snyder, our player of the week, they go on the road. They go for 2 late in the game and get the win 39-38. And Billy, let's put up the play, the touchdown run by Poochie to set up the opportunity to go for 2. And Coach, take us through this play here.
Well, we had worked a lot of the quarterback draw out of empty the whole week, and they had been a 4-man front the whole way. They came to a 3-man front when we went empty most of the night. So we actually had to start in a 1-back so they'd be in a 4-man front so our line would feel comfortable blocking it. We motioned Ethan out, and Poochie did a great job reading it. And, Aiden Gear got to the second level, got in the way of, if you see up about the 30, just gets in his way. That's a good lineman block downfield against an athlete. Got in his way, stopped his feet. Jordan Fitzgibbons made a good block, and then Poochie just does what Poochie does. A lot of people don't realize that Poochie's a 4.4 40, and he's hard to catch when he gets in space.
Now, he showed that last night, no question about that, and put some nice moves on, broke some ankles here at about the 20-yard line there, and then takes it the distance. And that's a 43-yard touchdown run to make it, at that point, 38-37, Coach. All right, and you and I talked last night, but for our viewers here this morning, take them through what you were telling your team there all along on that drive and after he scored about going for 2.
Well, I told our kids. Well, I told our coaches after the interception when they were in a drive. I said, if we get out of this thing with no points, we're going to score. We're going to go for 2. And one coach said, we got to play. I said, yes, the Z now. And when we got in the huddle after that, I said, hey, let's go down and score. When we score, we're going for 2. We're running the Z now, and we're going to win it. And that's exactly what I told them when we got in the huddle to begin the drive.
Coach, is that just your confidence in the team, or are you trying to instill confidence in them that, hey, we got this thing and we practiced this play all week, so you all know that that's the play we're going to run and to build your team up in a crucial situation?
Hey, yes to both. Because, I have confidence in this team, and we're still trying to instill confidence at this moment. Our kids they've done a great job. Last night we expected to win, and that hasn't always been the case here. At Canton South we've hoped to win. Now we're expecting to win, and that's a key difference to taking a program to the next level. And that's what we've been trying to instill, is to expect to win, expect to make those big plays, and our kids did that last night, and that was great.
Coach, let's walk through that final play, the Z Nile, I believe you called it. You get down there, obviously a huge drive. It's got to be tough to get the kids under control, but here's that play that wins the game for you.
Yeah, we just go to a 3-by-1 set, and we bunch the 2 guys in the middle. We send it and send our guy in motion. We actually hit it a little too far inside. That's why it was a little rough getting in. Pooch wants to hit him on the hash and get up inside when work. They were in a cover 0 look. So, the 2 blockers block the men over them, and then they serve as a pick for the guy following in motion. And then if they're in a zone coverage, you just kind of split the seam. So our kids did a real good job, and Tavon caught it and bowled his way into the end zone. And that was a good play for us. I told Kenny last night that that was that I thank Dan If for that play, because Dover beat us when I was at New Philadelphia in 2016 in overtime on that exact play. So that's where I got it from.
It's a copycat league, right, Coach? If it works for somebody
That's
else,
right.
hey, it might work for me.
Absolutely.
So when you say you practice that all week, how many times?
Well, we've practiced that. That's been in our. Practiced that at least 3 times a week for probably the last 4 or 5 weeks. So that's been a play that we've gotten good at, and that we when we revamped our red zone after the CVCA game, and we didn't like what we did in the red zone against CVCA, so we put some new things in, put a couple wrinkles in, and that's one that we put in right away.
And the kids enjoyed the celebration last night on the road, a big win. You're talking about building the culture there at Canton South. We talked with Poochie, and we're going to play that interview coming up after you're done here in a second. And how big of a win was this? Put it into words for Canton South, first year in the Pac-7, going on the road, like you said, and beating the co-defending champs.
Yeah, you go on the road in a game that everybody knows is going to be tight, and you come away with a win. That does a lot for our program. That does a lot for our kids. It does a lot for confidence. When the game's on the line, we know what it feels like. And I told our kids this morning, that's what it feels like. I said, and if you keep winning, it's just going to feel better and better and better. And now that expectation, instead of the hope to win, that expectation to make the play. I was so proud of our defense. We struggled all night, but after we recovered that fumble, we came out and we went 4 and out, and they got a grand total of 3 yards on that last drive, and our kids were running around. We still made mistakes, but our kids were flying around and playing with confidence and not waiting for somebody to make a play or hoping somebody makes a play. They were all putting it on their own backs.
Yeah, and Billy, that's the thing that really stood out to me was all game long, these teams were matching each other score for score pretty much, right? And you were down 10 points at one point, but on their last 2 drives, when they had scored on you practically all game long, the defense was there to recover the fumble when the quarterback took his eye off the snap, it looked like, and it was a little off center. And then they still had a chance to kick a field goal to beat you guys with plenty of time left, Coach, and your defense rose to the occasion. How can you build off of that for your defense? Just that last, drive stopping series there to win the game.
That's big because at halftime I challenged them to play on fire, to play fire in their belly, and that that is a perfect example of playing on fire right there at the end of the game. So we build off of that, and then we build off of that. They now know that's how you have to play to get 3 and outs. That's how defense has to. That's the intensity we have to bring now, and that's the expectation. And then also, playing with better eye discipline is going to be big for us. I think our biggest mistake all night long is our eye discipline was awful, and with all the formations and the movement that they do, you can't play with bad eyes. And that was a lesson learned. Our kids were like this morning in films. Our kids were saying, yes, that is our biggest issue that we got to deal with right now.
Coach, one last question before we let you go here. We walked you through plays. We showed you a great run by Poochie, obviously late to keep you guys in it. When you're calling plays, when you're choosing what you want to run, how often do you say, okay, we're going to do this play because Poochie can do it or Poochie can make something happen?
Every play. Really, that's a big part of our offense. And one thing that we've been able to do this year much better, we've been on time and on rhythm. I mean, the improvised plays are much fewer this year, and that's a credit to our kids. That's a credit to Poochie. Poochie's on time with everything, but then when he's got to make something happen, he makes something happen. We were in the bunch package earlier in the game, and it looked like a planned draw, but it looked like a planned draw, but he missed the read right away, and he knew he missed it, but he wasn't going to throw it late, and he drove. I mean, he saw the seam in the pocket and he took off. And when you have a guy that can do that, it makes I'm a Dennison. I don't like to throw the ball. In fact, looking at the stats now, we threw it only 24 times last night. Yeah, I'm not afraid to throw it 60 times now with Poochie because I know he can make something happen.
Yeah, so forget the old Woody Hayes adage, right? When you throw the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. Well, no, not when you have Poochie Snyder as the all-time passing leader there, and he's only a junior, Coach. How much better can he get?
I think the progress he made this year. Last year, he was a great quarterback as a sophomore. We worked on pocket presence, and we've worked, and you see, last night you could see he held the pocket a little bit better. Still have to work on that. That's still something, but he can make all the throws. He He can improvise. He can make runs. I think, you put 20 more pounds on him next year. I mean, that'll pay off dividends. And I think he's a guy that can play at the next level. He's 6 foot. So I hope some of these MAC guys are smart and realize 6 foot's tall enough, because he's one of those guys. I've been fortunate to have 3 Division I quarterbacks that I've coached as a head coach. And, he's as good as any of those guys. And he makes plays, probably, ranks. Well, right now, I think he ranks number 1.
Coach, over 5,000 career passing yards, over 2,000 yards passing already this year, 20 touchdowns, only 2 picks. He runs the ball well, almost 400 yards rushing. So we're looking at 2,400 yards and 31 touchdowns, making a good case for Stark County Player of the Year, isn't he?
Yeah, and I don't think he really cares about that. He's worried about getting these next 3 games on. We have some big goals. Right now, we have the PAC championship ahead of us, so we got 3 games there, and we take care of business. We're going to be able to play in the playoffs at home, which is those are big goals for us. And he's worried about that. And we talk about the great ones, worry about taking care of business, and the accolades comes. But yes, he's definitely making a case for that if he continues to do what we can do.
Coach, thanks for getting up this Saturday morning with us in the huddle. We appreciate everything last night, throughout the week, and today, and good luck the rest of the way. I have a feeling we'll be talking again down the road.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Matt Dennison, outstanding head football coach there at Canton South, Billy. And Poochie Snyder, as good as it gets in Stark County as far as quarterback. Jack Talkington up there. Poochie Snyder up there, right? Carson Colucci, one minor mistake last night, but it was a costly one. And like I said, AJ, Sarbaugh was upset, and understandably so, because they controlled that game. But credit to Coach Dennison's team. They never gave up, and they stuck around hoping for a play or a mistake, and they capitalized on it. And we had a chance to catch up with Poochie Snyder after the game last night, and you heard what his head coach had to say. Here's what Poochie had to say about the big comeback win on the road at Fairless, 39-38. All right, Poochie Snyder, our player of the game here on WHBC's Pro Football Hall of Fame Game of the Week. A thriller, 39-38. Yeah. Canton South comes all the way back to win at Fairless. Poochie, talk to me about the resiliency of this team, the never give up attitude, and your ability to come back and lead this team to a win.
Man, especially after our 2 turnovers. The fumble first, that set us back from the jump. We were always playing from behind. Halftime, we got everyone. We rallied together. And then to get that stop there, after the defense picked me up there, after they didn't get a stop all game, got the stop when it mattered, and we went down and made a play.
The scramble for the touchdown. Coach was telling me he thought the draw was there, but their defense was kind of jamming the middle, but you sent a guy in motion to kind of open things up. Pretty good coaching you get there, right?
Yeah, no, they had bracketed our Xavier Williams and Tavon most of the game. We knew that they were double covering them. And then we ran the motion down the goal line. We saw the middle of the field was open. We came back to it here, and Coach gave me a chance to make a play, and we got the win.
When you're in the open field like that, what are you seeing? What are you looking for to decide where you're going to go, how you're going to cut and everything? Take us through a play like that.
Yeah, my center, Aiden Gear, he got the linebacker just like we had done all week in practice. I cut off that, and then our receivers, we trusted them, spring a big play, especially when they're not catching passes, spring a big play in the run game, and that's what Jordan Fitzgibbons did. I cut off him, and I got in the end zone.
Yeah, you did. All right. Any doubt that you were going for 2 points there?
No, we knew at the beginning of the drive. We said we were going to go down and go for 2 once we scored, and that's exactly what we did.
What's a win like this mean to the program? Coach told me that he was looking for a program building win. Yeah. So is this that type of a win?
This is the definition of one. You look at our CBCA game where we lost that game, and 9 times out of 10, every Canton South team usually loses that game. But I think this is the turning point for us and the turning point for our team. And Canton South is a program, and we got it done tonight.
Congratulations on the win. Best of luck the rest of this season.
Thank you so much.
How about that kid, man? Huh? Has he got it together or what?
WHBC Player of the Week for a reason. He was great. And how many times does a game like that live up to the hype?
We said whoever had the ball last was going to win. Now, technically that happened because Canton South held on defense and genuflected and took a knee. But we thought, it would end on 000, and Fairless had the chance. All they needed was a field goal, but they couldn't get in field goal position. Give credit to Canton South for the defense coming up with a big play. But it lived up to the hype, no question about it, Billy. And we were blessed last night to be there in a great atmosphere, fans on both sides. Again, one of those games you don't want either team to lose, but credit to South as they came back, got the win, and now they're in position, like you said, to control their own destiny to win at least a share of the Pac-7 title this year.
No doubt. We spent so much time talking about the Federal League, and Federal League's a logjam towards the top, and people are coming up. Teams are coming up to win that league, and maybe we felt like, hey, Fairless is pretty dominant. That's probably going to be theirs. They're going to own that. No longer. And you said there's a lot that went into that game. How good is Poochie Snyder?
Yeah.
The definition of a program building win. The race for the playoffs, the race for the Pac-7. I mean, what a game we had last night. And we love getting the chance. That's why we, as the station, I think it's great we get the opportunity. We're not going to McKinley every week. We're not going to Lake. We're hitting a McKinley game, a Lake game, a Hoover game, Canton South.
Northwest.
Northwest, Canton Central. I think that's part of our great coverage, Kenny. And a night like that works out for you guys and works out for us on the Saturday morning show.
Yeah, let's run through all the scores real quick from last night, Billy, before we get out of here on this version of the Saturday morning huddle. Canton South 39-38 over Fairless. We've talked about it all show long, deservedly so. McKinley, the game you had on WHBCSports.com, 36-26 over Lake. Lake's first loss. They haven't started 7-0 since I think it was 1998. They had a chance. They fought back, but too much McKinley last night. Hoover, a winner over Perry last night, 24-14. Jackson, Jason Davide, 151 yards, 4 touchdowns in the Polar Bears' 38-0 win over Glen Oak. Massillon beats Middletown, Delaware, 42-24. How about this? You talked about your McKinley Bulldogs trailing 14-0 in that game, right? Massillon trailed 12-0 in that game, and they ran off 35 straight points. And, of course, Wiltrell Hartson right in the middle of all of that, $198 on the ground, 3 touchdown runs. Jalen Slaughter with 3 touchdown passes. So Massillon now has won 6 in a row. They're 6-1. We talked with Troy Davis from Louisville, 27-23 winners over Green last night. Snaps that 10-game losing streak to Federal League teams. How about Alliance? Alliance beats Carrollton 47-14 last night. And all Caden Davis did for Alliance was rush for 300 yards and 5 touchdowns. And that's not even close to the school record when Deuce Johnson ran for 462 yards back in 2017. But Alliance, after losing to Lake on opening night, they've won 6 straight. They're 6-1, 2-0 in conference play. Brendan Zerbrug, 17 of 19. That's efficient. 224 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And defensively, the Aviators forced 5 turnovers in that game. And oh yeah, they'll host West Branch next week. And that's our Pro Football Hall of Fame game of the week. That means you're going to have a battle of 2 of the top quarterbacks in the area. Drew DeShields from West Branch and Brendan Zerbrug from Alliance. We'll have that game for you. West Branch, 53-16 winners over Marlington last night. Drew DeShields, he had 4 incompletions. Shame on him. For 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, yeah, he ran for 110 and a touchdown as well. Minerva's still winless. They lose to Salem 48-13. We had Trucker Linda Smith on earlier. Central Catholic, a winner over Menor Lake Catholic 20-10. Jack Talkington, 11 of 21 throwing for 94 yards and a touchdown. 22 carries, $130 on the ground, 2 more touchdowns. Dan Bourne with a huge interception late in the game to seal that win. Northwest, thanks to Coach DeMarco for coming on. They go for 2. They get the win over CVCA 29-28. Chase Badger, 2-point conversion pass to Ethan Nicky for the win there. Tuslaw, the Mustangs, I drove by their stadium on the way home last night. They lost to Orville 45-20. Ridgewood takes care of Sandy Valley 47-30. East Canton, Spider Miller and the guys get back on the winning track 21-6 over Strasburg. Brennan Betts throws for 282 and a touchdown. He also ran for a touchdown in the win. And Toby Schrader with 4 catches, $134 in receiving yards and a touchdown. Malvern 28-20 over Buckeye Trail. Malvern now 6-1. St. Thomas did not play, Billy, because they didn't have enough players to play their game last night against Southeast. So I had to call that one off. So That's what happened in and around Stark County last night. And we've got some great games next week. If you can run on the bottom, what we'll be covering next week. We mentioned our game, West Branch and Alliance, but how about your game next week, man? You've got a hell of a game next week. Once again, you know how to pick the games, man. You've scheduled very well this year for the streaming game.
No doubt. Very excited. I just saw Jackson. I just saw McKinley. First game at Benson this year, so I'm very excited for that. How about this, Kenny? I go from Lake, an open broadcasting booth, to Benson, no window opening. So I'll go from a loud crowd in my ear to dead silence in my Benson booth. But I'm excited for that one. That's a big Federal League matchup, and McKinley's red hot, but Jackson has shown their ability to take a loss and bounce back. We saw them with a huge win this week, and they'll look to carry that momentum.
All right, now let me find out for my statistical purposes. Did Lake take care of you food-wise at halftime last night?
No. I don't know.
What do you mean? There's always pizza at Lake.
I'll commend Lake. I've been there once this year. They have like pepperoni rolls.
Right.
They're fresh. They're hot. I swear, all we did was end the half, run through scores, which is 2 minutes. I come out gone.
Yeah. Now that's on you. Okay, if you snooze, you lose, BB. I'm going to tell you, if you snooze, you lose. You got to get there early, go to a break, okay, then come back and do your stats so you make sure you eat. That's not on the Blue Streaks. That's on Billy BB for snoozing on that one.
I'll say I've learned a lot about broadcasting from Kenny Rhoda, but the food, how to work the food is starting to really come into play. And I mean, I'm getting pictures from Frank. It looks like they had wings or some type of baked chicken or something yesterday.
They had theirs was a post game feast.
Wow.
Ours was pizza from Krause's Pizza there at Fairless. So thank you to everybody at Fairless. They fed us and the pizza was outstanding. So you're at guess what? At McKinley, you're not even getting a bottle of water next week at McKinley. They don't forget the food. You don't even get water at their game. So you better bring your own food and your own water next week to the game at McKinley.
I'm on pregame a couple hours before I like to do Chipotle. It fills me up. It's good luck. I haven't had a bad broadcast yet this year, so I'll stick with that. And I'm excited. We're coming to a good point in the season, Kenny, where we're getting a read on a lot of teams, and yet we're seeing so many great matchups. You talked about our schedule. Our schedule's worked out so well. And before we wrap up here, I got to compliment our guest today.
Yeah.
Dr. Seth had a great back and forth with me. I appreciate him, kind of clarifying with the Guardian Cap studies and concussion knowledge and stuff like that was huge. And then, what a session with Trucker breaking those plays down. It's incredible to see him, it's a huge run by Jack Talkington, but he said, oh, look at that inside block on the right side from so-and-so. That's the things these coaches, they know. They're like, oh, it's that little thing that I knew had to happen. They pointed out to us.
Yeah, I love breaking film down with coaches because last night I had it on my phone, the 2-point conversion, and I showed it to Coach Dennison. He said, oh, you got a good angle. Let me watch this, right? So he wanted to see it coming, that way. And if you see the pass by Pucci's a little bit outside, and he talked about, well, we need to do this a little better, but it still worked. And they scored the touchdown. So these coaches, man, I give them all the credit in the world. They got to deal with 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. So they got to be, a psychologist, right? To a lot of these kids, they're father figures, right? And they got to worry about the X's and O's trying to outsmart their counterpart on the other sideline. And I'll tell you, last night, AJ Sarbaugh versus Matt Dennison, neither coach lost. They were both fantastic in their play calls, in their schemes, and it came down to mistakes on the field. And unfortunately, yes, South turned it over twice, but it's when you turn it over, right? And boy, Fairless had a chance to win that game, run out the clock or score, and a simple snap from center, fundamentals, and that's something AJ, I'm sure, will go over with his team. But he called a fabulous game to that point, and even that play. You got to, execute fundamentally, and that gave an opportunity for South to come back and put the ball in Pucci's hands, and Pucci makes magic. So Pucci wins over Colucci last night in our game of the week. So it's been a lot of fun recapping this, and we went a little longer this week, but because of all the great games and guests we had today, we can go long when we want to here on the Saturday Morning Huddle.
No doubt. Great show this week. We'll be set up for another great week of recaps and whatnot. I'm excited we've talked a lot about Alliance, and this will be our first look at them for you guys to go over there for radio. So we're excited. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Make sure you can go back. You can leave a comment, leave a question for next week for myself or Kenny. When we go live, you can leave questions for the coaches and players. And that is the best part. Kenny, you talked about it. Number one, we can go long or short if we need to or want to. Or on the other end of things, this is going to live somewhere. So when we're done, go back and watch it on Facebook. Go watch it on YouTube.
I'm trying to give you knowledge throughout the season, right? I need some knowledge from you because I'm in your old stomping grounds next week. Alliance plays at Mount Union, right? At Larry Karras Stadium. So what should I know about getting ready for a broadcast there at Karras Stadium?
Well, I'll say this, and this wouldn't affect you, but this is more for Belford, okay?
All right.
You guys are lucky because the first high school games and the first Mount Union games, you go up in the booth, you set up in the booth, the sun beams right into that booth. There is no air. That is the hottest press box of all time. So you guys are lucky that it's good temps, and you guys are set, ready to roll. Beautiful booths. That's a state-of-the-art facility over there, obviously being for a 13-time national championship program. And you guys will have a good time with the temperature being as it is. I'm interested to see what you're wearing. You should do a outfit of the day, thing going forward with the temperature changing, because you could get some style going during the winter. It's hoodie season, Kenny. Hoodie season.
I'm prepared. Trust me. I've got the style. I think I've got the style thing down, and so I'll be ready to go there. I'm looking forward to that. You talk about a high-scoring game we had this week with Pucci and Colucci, Canton South, and Fairless, West Branch, and Alliance. Man, we may have a score in the 50s for both teams when that one's all said and done. So we may crack 100 points this week. So we're looking forward to bringing that to everybody. And you've got a great game. And then, of course, we'll recap everything again next Saturday morning here in the Huddle.
Beautiful. Have a great weekend.
You too, man. And we'll see what the Buckeyes do, what the Browns do. And we'll talk about all that on the Kenny and JT show Monday through Friday from 3 to 7 p.m. And then Billy and I will be back in the Huddle with you next Saturday morning on Facebook and on YouTube at 10 a.m. Great job, BB.
See you in the Huddle, Stark County.